Hello, I'm going to show you how to verify that aspect lines and also midpoint lines in an in-Mundo astromap are correct. So this is a technical explanation. Sometimes people say, how do I know if these aspect lines are correct? How did you, or more often it's, how did you get these? Well, to explain how we get them in detail is a bit technical, but I'm going to explain it here. This tutorial video is a continuation of another video where I show how to select these aspect lines and midpoint lines. And here I'm going to go into technical detail of verifying that they're correct. So this tutorial video is probably not the most popular one I will ever make, but for those of you curious about it, I'm making this to show you how you confirm that the lines are correct. So let me show you first how to show that aspect lines to the Ascendant Midheaven are correct, and I will use Crescent Oregon for Julia Roberts as an example, because she has a lot of aspects there. I just looked at her map for the United States, and she happened to have a lot of lines crisscrossing in there. So we'll use Crescent Oregon. So I'm selecting an astromap. I've got Julia Roberts' natal chart here, and well, I just selected this already. Crescent Oregon, zoomed in. I had already typed it in. And we'll do, I just want to see the midpoint, so I'll select that, a normal in Mundo map. And we will see that she has Mars conjunct the descendant. Conjunct means it's on the horizon, it's on the west horizon. This is the one that's part of standard astrocartography. Here's Neptune opposite the ascendant, but as we learned in the previous video, opposite the ascendant is not on the descendant in Mundo. So we have Neptune opposite the descendant, Mars conjunct the descendant, Mercury semi-square the descendant, Saturn trine the descendant. Here's a Saturn semi-sextile, the midheaven. And over here is Saturn sextile the ascendant. Okay, so how do we verify that these lines are correct? We just relocate the chart to Crescent Oregon, and we should see all these aspects with a small orb, the Saturn semi-sextile midheaven, bigger orb, it's further from Crescent, Saturn sextile, the ascendant, much larger orb, and we should see Mars conjunct the descendant, Neptune opposite the ascendant, Mercury semi-square the descendant, Saturn trine the ascendant, all with small orbs. So where are we going to see those? We'll see those in a table that shows diurnal and nocturnal arcs and distances in right ascension. So we relocate it and we pull up the table and we'll see it. So let's relocate our chart to Crescent Oregon. And we will, there's a relocated chart. We'll find this listing in a few places. One place is under listing, fixed stars, not obvious, but listing fixed stars, number 8 is an in-Mundo calculation of fixed stars, so it shows some technical details for it. You'll also find this calculation in listings of primary directions, but it shows up here, and there it is. Here are the angles, and we will see this table right here shows us, right here I've got highlighted 0.218, positive and negative just means which side of the horizon it's on, not important for us right now, but that's Mars is very close to being on the west horizon. That's it. That's why it says that Mars is on the descendant in Mundo, because the west horizon distance, which in this table is measured in diurnal and nocturnal semi-arcs, is almost 0. And here is the opposition to Neptune. Neptune opposite the ascendant, because the arc to the east horizon is 180. Notice, Neptune is not conjunct the west horizon, even though it's opposite the east horizon, because in Mundo, these are not usually opposite each other. Same thing with Mars. It's on the descendant, but 232 degrees from the east horizon. And here's the trine of Saturn, right here. Saturn, almost exactly 120 degrees from the west horizon. And here's that sextile with the bigger orb to the ascendant. I'll show you in the map. Let's see, where am I? I think I was here. Yeah, there it is. This is that Saturn sextile the ascendant with the larger orb. It's actually 60.8 degrees, so it's 0.8 from being exactly 60 when measured in the Mundo method, which is diurnal and nocturnal semi-arcs. And here's the Saturn trine the midheaven, or trine the descendant, sorry, Saturn trine the descendant, much closer to being exactly 120 in Crescent Oregon, which in our table is right here, almost exactly 120, 119.84. So here I've copied the table here, so and to make it clear, I put in red the conjunction and opposition and the other aspects. Here's the Saturn semi-sextile the midheaven, which shows up right there. Saturn semi-sextile midheaven. So there it is. In this table, you have, we relocate to Crescent Oregon, we pull up this listing, we scroll down, and in this table you will find the values. So we did it. We confirmed with this table that the in-Mundo aspects are correct. How would we confirm the midpoints? Well, to the horizon, what we learned in the previous video on putting aspect lines in Mundo astromaps is that the altitude will be the same. So we will relocate to the place and see if the altitudes are the same. And for the midheaven, if we use the right ascension method, we'll see that's here in the table, right here in the table. That's the midheaven distance. The midheaven distance and the IC distance will be the aspect we're looking for. Like here's that Saturn semi-sextile, the midheaven, almost exactly 30. So when it's a midpoint, the two planets will have the same distance. This is measured in right ascension. One will be positive, one will be negative. They'll be on both sides of the midheaven axis. So that's what it is. It's in the table. Now, the last thing we're going to do is the direct distance midpoint. When the direct distance midpoint is on the meridian plane, this means that the right ascension of the direct distance midpoint is the same as the right ascension of the midheaven. And so we need to find the direct midpoint, get the right ascension of it, and compare it to the right ascension of midheaven. So this is all technical, but for those of you who asked, I'm telling you how we find these aspects. It might be very tedious and for nerds only, and at this point maybe you say, gee, maybe I shouldn't have asked, but I wanted to give some idea of how these things are confirmed for those of you who want to know. And I know there are some of you who actually are interested enough in all these little details to want to really understand it and see how it works. So let me give you an example of these. This just repeats what I just explained. I'll show you a few examples. Julia Roberts has some midpoints to the horizon in Great Falls, Montana. So let's take Julia Roberts. I just noticed this looking at her astromap. So I want Julia Roberts. Let's do an astromap. And let's relocate it to Great Falls, Montana. Let's zoom in all the way so we can just see the ones that are really close. And I want midpoints. I don't really want to see all these minor aspects. It's going to clutter it up with things I'm not interested in at the moment. I'm really just interested in the midpoints, so I'll select aspects of midpoints. I'm doing the ascendant now, so I don't really care about the midheaven. I don't care whether it's doing it direct distance or not, so that's fine. Just my interest at the moment is to show how midpoints of the ascendant can be confirmed as being correct. So I'm going to select this. And there it is. She has Saturn-Uranus midpoint, conjunct the ascendant, and Sun-Saturn midpoint, conjunct the descendant. How am I going to confirm that those are correct? I will just relocate to Great Falls and look at the altitude of Sun and Saturn Uranus. Altitude is the distance from the horizon, and as we saw in the previous video, they will have the same altitude. So I will show that to you. I will relocate to Great Falls, Montana. Great Falls, Montana. There it is. Relocate it there. Now I want the local space chart so that I get azimuth and altitude. So I'll go to Settings, Coordinate System, and I can select any of these altitude azimuth charts. I'll select local space. They will all give me the same altitude calculations. And I can pull up the altitude in various ways. One way would be to show a wheel with a lot of details in it. I'll right-click, select this wheel, and now because it's an altitude azimuth, it's going to show me the altitude. And there it is. Sun is 40 south 04, Saturn is 40 north 02. Same altitude within 2 minutes. And the Saturn-Uranus, Saturn is 40 north 02 and Uranus is 40 south 04. Again, 2-minute orb. So there it is. They have the same altitude. One is north, one is south. So it's fantastic. We get that astromap, finding all the places where the altitudes are the same, and the direct distance midpoint, therefore, is directly on the horizon. And if I look at this in a bigger wheel style, so you can see it better, notice that, let's see, Sun and Saturn, here's Sun and here's Saturn. Now this is a local space. In local space, it's like a map. East is to the right. So Sun and Saturn are on the west. And Saturn and Uranus are slightly on the east. They're on this side. The midpoint is going to be on this side. And they're on the east. And that's why when we look at the astromap for Julia Roberts, go back to her natal chart, and we look at this astromap, Saturn and Uranus are, that was the wrong one, here it is, Saturn and Uranus are east, so it's yellow, going very close to Great Falls. There's the Sun, Saturn. These are on the horizon plane. The direct midpoint is on the horizon plane. So we confirmed it. And here I've copied that information that was in the table. Sun is 40 south 04, Uranus is also 40 south 04, and Saturn is 40 north 02. That means that the Saturn-Uranus midpoint and the Sun-Saturn midpoint are on the horizon. We confirmed it. That's how you do it. Just relocate to the place and look at the altitudes, and one will be north and one will be south, and they'll be the same. So we confirmed that. Now, the last thing, and we're done with all this little tedious number crunching, is to confirm the midheaven lines, both by right ascension and by direct distance. The right ascension is simpler, so I'll do it first. And I noticed this Venus-Jupiter is interesting. In the previous video, I showed that Venus-Jupiter in Ben Affleck's chart, the Venus-Jupiter midpoint is opposite the midheaven, almost exactly where his home is in Palisades Park. I thought I would show you where it is if I don't do it direct distance. If we don't do it direct distance, it's way out in Zuni, New Mexico. Very, very different place. So the Venus-Jupiter opposite the midheaven for Ben Affleck is in Zuni, New Mexico when done in right ascension. And I'll show you how to confirm that. Let's, first of all, go to Ben Affleck's chart, which is here, and let's look at an astromap for Zuni, New Mexico. Astromap. I've already got selected, Zuni, New Mexico, and I've already zoomed in all the way, I think, because I selected this before in preparing for this lecture. And what I want to show midpoints. I don't care about minor aspects. I'll just select this so it's not cluttered with all those minor aspects. And I want to see that Venus-Jupiter with this not checked. I don't want direct distance. It's not checked. I'll get it in right ascension. I'll click OK, and there it is. There's Zuni, Z-U-N-I, New Mexico, and there's the Venus-Jupiter opposition, the midheaven, when done in right ascension, rather than direct midpoint. This means that if I relocate his chart to Zuni, New Mexico, and look at that table, the same table we looked at for Julia Roberts, we'll see the Venus and Jupiter have the same angle from the midheaven. Let's do it. I'm going to relocate his chart to Zuni, New Mexico. There it is. Relocate it. And let's go to listing, fixed stars, number 8, to get this distances from the midheaven. Here it is, this table, and here's, let me highlight Venus and Jupiter. Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and there it is. Venus, midheaven distance, 94.58, and Jupiter, minus 94.78. Very, very close, because it's very close to Zuni, but it's not exact because the line doesn't go exactly through Zuni, New Mexico. The midheaven distance, this is measured in right ascension, is the same, which means the IC distance is the same. Notice the IC distance at 85.4 and 85.2 is less than 90, so it's considered to be in opposition. It's opposite the midheaven because the midpoint is closer to the IC. We confirmed it. There it is. And I've copied and pasted that here. Midheaven distance for Venus and Jupiter, 94.58. Midheaven distance for Venus, 94.58. For Jupiter, 94.79. One's positive, one's negative. There it is. We confirmed it. Last thing, and then we're done confirming all these calculations. Remember in the previous video we had the Venus-Jupiter midpoint for Ben Affleck opposite the midheaven in direct distance, very close to where he lives in Palisades. Let's confirm that. Then we're done. So we'll go, let's see, back to Ben Affleck's natal chart. Let's pull up a map, an astro map for Pacific Palisades, where he has a home. Don't know how often he lives there, but at least part of the time. And we just want midpoints. So I'm not going to select the minor aspect, just going to clutter up my map with all kinds of lines. I really just want to look at these midpoints, and I want it in direct distance. So I'm going to check this. I check this option to have the midpoints to the midheaven in direct distance. I've got Pacific Palisades, I think I've got everything right. I click OK. And here is Los Angeles. Here's Pacific Palisades, just west. And this is really close. The Venus-Jupiter midpoint goes almost directly through Pacific Palisades. Venus-Jupiter opposite the midheaven. And now, what does that mean? What does it mean? It means that the direct distance midpoint of Venus and Jupiter has the same right ascension as his relocated right ascension in midheaven in Pacific Palisades. You see why it takes so long for it to program all this stuff? We have to think through all this, check all this out, graph it, debug it, draw these lines. Okay, you're just getting the tip of the iceberg if you think this is spinning your head. This is just the easy part of working through all this. All right, so anyway, let's... how are we going to find the direct distance of this midpoint? Well, fortunately, Sirius 2.0 has a feature to show direct midpoint positions, but it will be in longitude and latitude, and we'll convert it to right ascension and declination. So first, let's get the direct distance midpoint of Venus and Jupiter. I can get that by going to midpoints in Sirius 2.0, select the second menu item to view change settings, click on advanced settings, and there's an option here. Normally this is on normal, and I select direct distance. Hallelujah, we have it. Good news. Otherwise, we'd have no simple way to know where that direct distance midpoint is without a huge number of steps. But it will produce the direct distance midpoint for us. So I've got that selected, and I want a midpoint listing, a 360-degree sort. I don't care about the rest of this. I just want that midpoint is all I'm interested in at the moment. I click OK, and you would search through this table, and there it is. Venus, Jupiter midpoint, 3 Libra 55, 23 South 32. But that's the longitude and latitude. I need the right ascension. How am I going to get it? Well, Sirius has a calculator. that will convert longitude and latitude to right ascension declination. I go up here to settings, not settings, I want the calculator, I just said. Click on calculator, and what do I want? I'll slide that over. I want 3 Libra 55. That's the same as 183.55 if you're familiar with converting from zodiac sign to degree notation. And 23 South 32. I put this here, 23 South 32. So this is the longitude and latitude. I click this button to calculate the right ascension and declination, and it shows it up here. I don't care about the declination at the moment. I just want the right ascension, 173.40. I found it. Hallelujah. The right ascension of the direct distance midpoint of Venus and Jupiter for Ben Affleck is 173 degrees, 40 minutes right ascension. And I made a note of that here. There it is, 173.40. I calculated the midpoint, put it in the calculator. Now I need to get the right ascension of the midheaven in Palisades Park. So, how am I going to do that? I need to relocate his chart to Palisades Park. So I relocate it to Palisades. Is that the name of the place? Pacific Palisades. I don't know where I got that from. Pacific Palisades, California. Relocate it there, and I see that the midheaven is 23 Pisces 04. So there's several ways I can get the right ascension midheaven. One way is I can just convert that. I'll go back to the calculator, which is there, and put in 23 Pisces 04, which is equal to 353.04, converted to degrees. Latitude of the midheaven is always 0, by definition. Just something, you know if you know all this astronomy stuff. So 23 plus 353.04, 0 latitude, click on this, and the right ascension of the midheaven is 353.38. We got it. And I made a note of that here, 353.38. If you subtract 180 from 353.38, what do you get? You get 173.38, meaning the right ascension of the midheaven is opposite the right ascension of the direct distance midpoint with only a 2-minute orb, almost exact, and therefore the line in Pacific Palisades. I started calling it Palisades Park. It's Pacific Palisades. This is wrong. It's Pacific Palisades is the name of the town. So if we go back to Ben Affleck, I'm just about done here, wrap up, and we look at his astromap, and with the midpoints done in direct distance, that Venus-Jupiter coming almost right through the little dot right there for Pacific Palisades. It's only a 2-minute orb. We confirmed it. So that's it. A lot of little bitsy number crunching. And again, I know it's not the most exciting thing for most people, but it is nice to know. I think that's my last slide. I've got a little addendum. But anyway, this is my main last point here, is it is nice to know that you can actually confirm these calculations. And that's how it's done if you ever wanted to do it. Well, the addendum was just about this in Mundo normal versus in Mundo both horizons. It's really not an important point. Just that when you're in the Sirius software, by the way, I will zoom this in now, make this bigger. I can zoom it one more time, depending on how you want it. This choice here, what you should do is just always select in Mundo normal. Since this is a technical discussion, some of you may wonder, what is both horizons? What both horizons does is it will show you oppositions to the horizon and meridian plane, as well as conjunctions. But the reason you don't want to select this, and the normal is fine, is you're going to get those anyway when you select aspects. Because as soon as you select aspects, you have to get the oppositions. Let me show you what I mean. I'll leave this on the normal setting. And I think we saw that. Yeah, we did. Let me close this. We go back to Julia Roberts, and we look at, let me change this to Crescent Oregon. Crescent Oregon. Remember this? Let me just show you this. Crescent Oregon, major aspects for Julia Roberts, normal. Just do the normal. That's all you got to do. Because as soon as you select aspects, it's going to show you the oppositions anyway. The both horizons thing really isn't needed. I'll show it to you just since this is a technical thing. If I do both horizons, if I do conjunctions and oppositions only with both horizons selected, this is the only difference, then it will show me the opposition. There it is, Neptune opposition. But like I said, if I do major aspects, I'm going to get it anyway. And if I do normal in Mundo with a basic map, then you get your normal map, and it makes it clear that this is the one that's on the horizon. The bottom line is you want to select normal so that when you do a basic map, you get your Jim Lewis astrocartography. There are a few people who want conjunctions and oppositions where the opposition's not on the horizon. Anyway, if you got lost with that, then the simple point is this. Just select normal in Mundo, and then your basic map is a basic map. Okay, so anyway, this is a technical discussion. I get into things that it can be confusing because you don't really need all this stuff, but there are one or two people who want it. Okay, so that's it. What the main point of this tutorial video is, I've shown you that these lines are technically actually correct. I've shown you how we verify that they're correct and how you can see that they're correct. And also what's really nice about this is if you want to really think about it, if you get into the astronomy and you think about what right ascension is and what diurnal arcs are and how they figured all this out in the Middle Ages and continue to do it, and how that information is determined, you've got it all. This is one of the great things about the Sirius software. We not only give you the calculations, we show you how the calculations are done. We put tremendous attention to detail. We explain everything that's behind it, so you have a complete learning experience, and you can grow and develop in the astrology. And we have a whole team of people working at it, and lots of customers who are contributing and adding to it, so that we can just keep evolving and developing in astrology just as far as we can. Okay, so thank you very much. God bless. Namaste.